Thanksgiving, y'all! I'm Lana. I'm live in my kitchen in Clearwater, Florida, and I just wanted to shout out and wish you all the most beautiful blessings for this happy Thanksgiving and to see what are y'all grateful for and what are y'all eating. Some of my favorite foods when I was growing up, my dad was a cook. He had a restaurant called Bellamia's, and it was a pizzeria sub shop. And he was the best chef. Of course, I think we all do that, right? I still think my dad is the best chef as far as what my memory and my flavors in my mouth remember and recall from back then. He made the best pizza. He made his own dough. He made his own tomato sauce. Everything was fresh, fresh, fresh. He had the best steak bombs. He would use really thin slices of sirloin steak. There'd be no gristle. It was like perfect, and I mean perfect. It would be melt in your mouth. And we used to call them the steak bombs, right? He'd put the green peppers and the onions, and it'd be perfectly caramelized, and then put that cheese on top. Just talking about it just makes my mouth water. Let me just say that. But growing up for the holidays was my favorite because my dad he'd make that glazed honey pineapple ham. Do y'all like that? Because I remember how much my mouth waters thinking about that too, because I love pineapple, but I can't eat it anymore. Turns out I'm allergic to pineapple. It gives me mouth ulcers. You know, like little spots. And one time I finally had to give it up because I actually had a little bit of what looked like a cold sore, and for 2 weeks it took my body to heal it. And I was like, ooh, this isn't pretty. It looks like I got herpes, and it was just because I was allergic to the pineapple. And you know, you're embarrassed. You're like, please don't look at my face. It's really a pineapple allergy reaction, right? And so the other things that I loved was having turkey, this big roasted turkey, right? And my dad would make the best stuffing. He would use a little bit of liver in it. And see, I was really picky as a child. Like, I had to force myself to like liver growing up because I just didn't like the flavor. But my dad would make it with onions and caramelize it. And so for some reason it tasted good when he made it the way he made it. But he would put just a little bit in with the stuffing, so it was kind of concealed. And it was always crispy and crunchy with that celery all mixed in. Yum. And one of my ways of making a turkey when I was younger, when I was preparing for other people, which I absolutely adore doing. I love making big meals for my friends and family, especially if they appreciate my cooking, which it's, hey, listen, food, friends, we all commune and celebrate around food. It's what brings us all together, right? That's why we're here, and why I'm so grateful for this forum to be able to share, right? So yeah, I would stuff my turkey using citrus and apples and pears, and so that it would infuse those flavors throughout the meat, right? And then when it was done, it was like butter. You'd cut through it and it would melt in your mouth, and you get all these amazing flavors from the citrus, and you could actually take those out. I don't recall if I actually used them, but some of it I could actually chop up and utilize. But man, especially if you take the citrus and you put the cloves around it, yummy. Just really great ways to flavor and savor. And pecans, this is the time of year for pecans and sweet potato pie or pumpkin pie. I'd be all over on top of that, like seriously in a heartbeat. There was a woman I used to work with. She made the best sweet potato pie. It had that citrusy taste to it. Just absolutely delectable, right? And so, what are y'all grateful for? What is your favorite recipe during the holidays? Is there anything that's your specialty? These days, my recipes have evolved significantly over the years, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm still a foodie and I can put away some food, and I really love sharing my food recipes. So I was thinking, if you're curious, and hopefully you enjoy this video, the recipe that I'm going to prepare and share with y'all is a little bit of a change up. I'm going to use mushrooms. I'm going to make a mushroom gravy. And I'm going to use the stems, and it's going to be really flavorful because I'm all about flavors, right? It's like, we really like this rainbow palette. We want to taste it. We want to really feel and embody everything we experience. And to me, it's a whole mind, body, soul experience when it comes to food. In fact, every experience to me is. I want to see it and taste it and smell it and just really feel the flavors. And that's how I am when I eat anything. I'm like, what is in this? And I feel out the flavors of what is in the food that I'm eating. Is anybody else out there can agree with me on this? Do y'all do that when you eat? You like try to figure out if you can recreate it at home? That's what I like to do. So what I'm going to prepare, this particular gravy using mushrooms, because I love mushrooms. Mushrooms this time of year, mushrooms any time of year actually. I love mushrooms. They're high in vitamin D, super healthy for you. And so I'm going to pull out the mushrooms and then I'm going to start preparing. So if you have any questions, please in the comments, share any questions, any suggestions, if you have any other recommendations for what I'm about to prepare. I learn through sharing, right? So I have these mini, well, they're called baby bellas, right? Baby bellas. Mushrooms might not smell the best either, but I'm telling you, I love mushrooms. So I'm going to need a lemon. I think I actually have my recipe written out, which is really awesome. I'm going to use a little bit of coconut aminos, actually maybe a little chickpea miso. If you don't know about asafoetida, if anybody out there is allergic to alums like onion or garlic, this stuff is great because it imparts both flavors and it's super helpful in getting that garlicky, oniony flavor without getting the reaction that maybe some of you all experience. I love onions, but my body doesn't always necessarily like them. The other thing I'm going to make is a cauliflower mash so that it has something to pour on, right? And that's fun too. Just changing things up. And so I like to use a little bit of nutritional yeast. Actually, I'm at the very end of that one. I think I've got another container in there. And this stuff's really great too. Coconut aminos. It's better than soy sauce because soy is processed and it causes all sorts of issues with our digestion and our hormones, right? None of us out there want our thyroid to have thyroid issues and be imbalanced, right? So I avoid soy like the plague personally. Chickpea miso, keeping it in the back of my fridge. And then I said I've got the nutritional yeast, I've got salt and pepper, and some of these spices. So, you know, I like to change up the spices. So we're going to see how this plays out, and I'll tell you everything that I'm doing. I use also almonds in this, and this is all going to go in my blender. So I have almonds, and then I also need to pull out walnuts. Will get utilized later. A great way to make nuts and seeds bioavailable is to make sure that you soak them. These particular almonds have already been soaked and dehydrated, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm actually going to use the walnuts later for another recipe, so I have to start soaking them now. But, you know, it's just a startup. And so, let me see where that one goes. So I'm going to start soaking my walnuts. It also removes any phytoenzymes, basically, so that your body can absorb it better. That should be plenty. And these are really yummy to eat, too. So what are y'all eating for this Thanksgiving? Please share. Make my mouth water. So I use this food prep. This is my blender. I use a Blendtec. I got this, and it's the best investment I ever made. I have 3 pitchers, and I specifically use one pitcher when I make anything of a garlicky nature, so that I'm not mixing garlicky flavors and sweet flavors in another. Okay. And so, here's what I'm going to do. What I like to do with the mushrooms is just to wipe them off with the paper towel. And I won't need very much. So, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're really truly enjoying this with friends and family and just getting in touch with what it is you're grateful for in your life. I'm actually using the stems on these. Not too many people will use the stems. So what I'm going to use these for later, the actual caps, I'm going to use some of the caps, but I'm going to stuff them. I'm going to stuff them. Stuffed mushrooms, yummy. Vitamin D, we all need more vitamin D. Even those of us living in the Sunshine State, we may think we're absorbing it, but we're not always. And sometimes we're avoiding it because of the height of the sun can be too much on our skin. And so it's really about making sure you're getting what your body needs nutrient-wise. Wiping off my mushrooms. So I'm going to use like the bigger of the mushrooms that are the bigger caps, and I'm going to stuff those later. Pretty psyched about this because I'll tell you what, this is mushrooms time for me, and I love, especially with walnuts. Walnuts and mushrooms. Mm-hmm. So in particular, this one has, let's see, this mushroom sauce is going to have at least 2 cups of mushrooms. I'm going to use half a cup of the almonds. I should have put those in there first, because technically they really need to be softened up a little bit. But that's why I use the high pressure, the high-powered blender, because then I don't need to worry about it blending up or not blending up, because it will. I'm trying to clean these up a little bit more. They're really pretty clean, actually. But it doesn't hurt to always do a little wipe down. And you don't necessarily want to make them wet, because then it's harder to get everything off of them. So with mushrooms, you really just want to use a simple paper cloth and just wipe it down. How do y'all eat your mushrooms? Any happy shroom fanatics out there? You really enjoy your vitamin D through mushrooms? Do you have any special mushroom recipes? Because let me tell you, sharing is caring. I want to know what y'all use, what you do with it. I said, I'm going to do half a cup of the almonds in here. Use about a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of coconut aminos or the chickpea miso. You can do either one, but I'm going to use both. I'll eat that. That should be plenty. Hope you enjoy this, because I know I will when I later get to eat it. And I dropped it. Yep, there's one. So, portobello mushrooms. I lived in Italy off and on for way over, like, I don't know, I lost track. Since my first visit in 1998. How about that? And Italy has had really been where I had the most eye-opening experiences of whether I was living to work or working to live. Let me just check. I need like half a cup or a cup of water in this before I continue the story. You can make this as thick or thin as you like. I just want to make sure that while I'm doing all of this, that it's going to start soaking those almonds. So living in Italy, going back to my story, I was awakened to the question that I had to confront myself with, which I hadn't done because I was totally unaware of where my life was going and where it had been, of whether I lived to work or worked to live. Let me tell you, in my career, when I was active duty, I was living to work. And that was more miserable for me. So now these days I try to work to live. And that changes the whole dynamic, the whole focus of how I move through my days. Am I appreciating my days? So like for today being Thanksgiving, I am in a total state of gratitude and appreciation because I get to share all that I've experienced and gleaned and these beautiful recipes and what I've learned over the years, and connect with other people. You know, there's beautiful people all around the world. We all get to connect through this web of inclusion, this World Wide Web, and from all walks of life. And I find that every person we meet, every person I've met, hasn't just been just an experience of an encounter or getting to know someone. It's been like eye-opening to where I am and who I am about myself. Because I find every person I encounter is basically my mirror, has taught me something about myself, and that it wasn't always about the other person, but also about myself. And that when I learned that, when I appreciate and admire something in another person, I realized that has to exist within myself, because I wouldn't recognize it in another person. So I have to check myself every once in a while and go, wow, I really admire that person. Wow, if I'm aware of that, I can also say that must be in me too, because how could I see it in someone else if I didn't already embody it within myself? And so, yeah, I've had some beautiful encounters in my life and met some beautiful people, and they taught me so much about myself just by showing up and mirroring me back to me. You know, just my thoughts, for example, being mindful of my thoughts has opened me up to, wow, how can I do better now? How can I communicate better with other people? Or if I wasn't receptive, how can I be more open? How can I open myself up to hearing and allowing an experience to be more enriching to my life? Okay, so now I've got 2 containers worth of, oh, how'd that happen? Oh, I had a rogue, I had a hiding, and one of my mushrooms was hiding down there. I don't know how that happened. Did you ever have that happen where you're like, how'd that end up over there? So Thanksgiving is also a time when, you know, sometimes we're by ourselves. I know over the years, like I was saying, I was in the Air Force for over 10 years. I did spend a lot of time by myself. And some people might find that hard to believe. And when you're living abroad, you know, you're not with your family and you're single. And I can tell you as a woman, sometimes it's been challenging because I've had other women just kind of just shun me, actually. And that where most men are invited to people's, you know, married couples' homes, the women aren't necessarily always invited to those. As a single woman, I got less invitations than the single male counterparts, who they just assume that, well, men can't take care of themselves, so we have to take care of them, and a woman can take care of herself, because that's just how it's just part of those perpetuated belief systems. And so I had to find my own, like, families and friends that truly valued and wanted to be with me and didn't, you know, reject me. Because I felt rejected a lot during my Air Force time. I had experiences where, you know, the wife of my supervisor didn't like me, or the wife of my commander, who actually embraced me when I was in Belgium, one there. But some of them, they just, oh, single woman. Like, I don't know, but some women find other women a threat. And that, to me, has taught me that's an insecurity within the other person and not about me. So it's very humbling, and I've gleaned compassion as a result of that, because how else could I recognize it in another if it didn't exist in myself? So that was very humbling to know, well, the reason they're rejecting me is because of something they're rejecting in themselves, right? So here we go. Here we go with the mushrooms. I've got the almonds soaking at the bottom. This particular pitcher leaks a little at the bottom, so I'm already prepared to know that. And then I'm going to use, I think about 1 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, I was right, of nutritional yeast. Gives it a little bit of a yeasty flavor. And so, I hope this inspires everyone out there. You know, I'd love to see y'all share your recipes and what you're doing. And then this, I'm just going to put a dash of it, which is about 1/2 teaspoon. And then I'm going to put 1/2 teaspoon of chickpea miso in there. Now, chickpea miso and coconut aminos are a fermented form. And so one thing is you'll want to eat this up within 3 days, because it'll start to ferment it. Not that I haven't, I've had that experience. I'm just sharing that. It'll start to ferment the fungi. So you have triple fungi. And your mushrooms are fungi, right? I know, it's a little silly, a little quirky. It's just who I am. I like to get silly. I'm raw and real. That's just how I roll. Nothing to hide. And then, like I said, a little dash of asafoetida makes up for the onions and the garlic flavor. Okay, little dash. And I'll put that off to the side. And then we have the water already in there. I have some ground pepper and salt to taste. Oh, here we go. I'm just going to throw in a few peppercorns just because, maybe 5 peppercorns pretty much in this one. Because there's something about the peppercorns. The pepper kind of enhances a little bit, right? And a pinch, 2 pinches of salt. What else am I going to put in here? So I don't know, I don't have sage up in my cabinet, but I'll tell you what, sage is a great complement to the earthy flavors of mushrooms. And then thyme too, right? Thyme, even tarragon. So I could play with a little herb de Provence. I could use a little Italian seasoning. I could use individual herbs. It just depends on your flavor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it up first, taste it, and see what I might want to add for herbs. And then the other thing is celery seed is really good too. I don't have any celery seed that I'm aware of in here. Sometimes I forget what's in my cabinet too. I might throw in some tarragon. So let's blend this up, get this party started. I know it's going to be kind of thick. It's going to make a little noise, as I do tend to do when I'm in the kitchen. All right. Still want it creamier. You want to make sure you break everything down really good. Let's see how this turned out. Smells like mushrooms. See all that? Can you see very well? So there's the mushroom. Let's try it. Just by itself, it's really, really good. Flavor-wise, we definitely add more salt. What else would I put in this? Herbs. So now we're moving on to the herbs. And yummy. Really good. I think, let me smell this, because there's rosemary in this. Herb de Provence it is. Because it has the tarragon, has the, I'd say this is about 1/4 teaspoon, not too much, because you want to start out with a little at a time. You can always add more later. The other thing is I think I'm going to actually finish off this nutritional yeast in here. Because that in itself will give it a little bit more salty flavor. I feel like there's one thing I need to add. Maybe a little bit more asafoetida. Okay. It's pretty thick, actually, which is nice. Nice thick sauce. I'm going to add a little bit more water to it, though, so I can regulate it a little bit better. And so what I've learned is you can make all sorts of good stuff with like nutritional yeast. If you have like any allergies to dairy, for example, this is a great alternative because it imparts a cheesy flavor. As well as what I've found is chickpea miso with nutritional yeast. Oh my gosh, that totally makes up for any dairy issues if you have them. Okay, and I always have my trusty towel to clean up my mess as I go, just because I don't want to have to go back and do things later, right? I don't know. Do y'all do that? I try to keep things clean, and so my space is prepped and everything's easy to move and shake and do what needs to be done. I think a little bit more pepper and salt. That's what really is needing a little kick in here. So I'm going to put 4 more peppercorns. Okay, make that 5, 6, 7. 5 more peppercorns. I'm going to put 2 more pinches of salt. That's how much salt I feel it needs. And this is Himalayan salt. I'm going to put a little bit more of that coconut amino just to give it a little bit of that flavor. There's a subtle sweetness to this. Subtle. So that ends up being at least a tablespoon in the end, which is what I believe that turned out to be now. And it's just... And you can add, I don't do a lot of oils, but you could even add a little olive oil to this if you feel you like that. It'll give it a little creaminess to it. You could use avocado oil even. Let me see. This will be much better. I almost think it's going to need a little bit more salt, but I like to add as I go because that's going to give you a better idea of what's going on with the flavors. It's harder to take it out after the fact. Actually, it's impossible to take it out after the fact. And so, it's getting better. It's getting better. It's nice and thick. Especially with those herbs, the herbs de Provence, beautiful. That's really yummy. That's a winner. And yeah, I could use it. I mean, depending on how much salt you're used to, I find that over time I use so much less salt that the more I add, the more I need. And so when you let your body kind of like balance out, eliminate salts, and then you add them back in, you're more sensitive to the flavors, and you'll feel them more, and you won't necessarily need as much. So it's a satiation that we tend to reach for sugars and salts because our palate is oversensitized. It's desensitized at that point. So we never feel the flavor anymore because we're putting more on it. So what I want to do is put this in a container. I'm trying to think if I have something to pour it into. A nice container where I can pour it out into something else later. Or from it. I don't have anything fancy right now. So what I'm going to do and see, that should be plenty. I love my glass. I use glass in everything if I can help it. And so, just so I don't miss a beat or lose any of them. Pardon me, I do lick all my spoons and my forks and my knives because I know my food tastes good. I'm telling you, I'm a true foodie from way back. So don't be alarmed. The only people eating this are in the house, and we don't mind. Right? You know it's good when you yourself are the one who's licking everything. This is super delicious too, by the way. And then after this, I'm going to make the cauliflower. And then you'll have something to pour it on. But of course you could put this on potatoes if you wanted to make up some mashed potatoes. That's also a great alternative. I also have parsnips in the refrigerator, which are really nice with the cauliflower. They make a great pairing. You have to get a really good spatula to make sure you get it all down the sides. I don't like to miss any of it. Okay. The beauty is this virtual world. You don't have to worry about me licking this and serving it to you because it's my house. But if I were serving you, I promise you I wouldn't do that to you. But if you're in my kitchen with me, I would not be surprised, nor would I turn anyone away who proceeded to say, can I lick the bowl? Can I lick that spoon? Can I have that? because you appreciate it so much. In fact, I highly encourage that in my house. If you want to lick your plate, to me, that's a sign that you really enjoyed your meal. Okay, so this very last little bit. And sometimes it's okay to use the same jar for one thing to the next because it's going to have the same similar flavors. This is really good. Okay, so look at the color. That's mushroom sauce, right? So we're going to put the cover on it, put it off to the side for now. Going to clean this up just a little bit. Just because it's so flavorful. And so cauliflower mash you can actually do in your food processor or blender, whichever works for you. You can make it chunky, a little bit of texture like mashed potatoes, or you can actually do it up in the blender nice and smooth and creamy. And you could do that even, like I said, with potatoes. This is really, really good, by the way. I'm not shy about licking it because it is that good. Yummy. Did I mention I'm raw and real, and so therefore this should be no surprise to anybody? And if I'm the only one out there, how many of y'all really love your food so much that you do this? I really think it goes back to when I was a child, to when my mom would make like carrot cake or zucchini bread or any type of pastry or baking. My mother would make it up, and my sisters and I would be like waiting for the bowl. Can we lick the bowl? We always licked the bowl growing up, right? And a spoon, whatever was left over. I don't know what it was about the batter, even before it was cooked. We just wanted the sweetness. So what I'm going to do, and even though this is my house, you may do something different. I'm not in your house, so I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's the beauty of life, right? We all do what we got to do. We don't need to impose our beliefs or do anything to anybody else or tell them what we think they should do. So the cauliflower. We're moving on to the cauliflower. This is the delish. And so I have, let me see where we got it. I've got a list of all my recipes for the holidays in front of me. We're gonna use parsnips in this too. That's what makes it so much fun. And I have a secret. First I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna add it to it because I like to play. Sometimes I do things in layers when I prepare, so that when I start with one thing, I want to see how the flavors unfold and how they change as I'm preparing. Because then I can say, well, should I have added that, or maybe I should have held off on adding that. And then it's difference in preference of if I want a particular flavor at a particular time. One thing may change, right? And so, and if you don't use this green part, come on, you don't know what you're missing. That's just as healthy. I love the actual core of the cauliflower because it's got a sweetness to it. And I think it doesn't get enough attention, enough appreciation. There's a lot of food like that where we don't actually fully like embrace it. We just go, well, have you ever heard the story of the story of the turkey and the woman who cut the ends off, and then the great-grandmother comes to the house and says, why are you cutting off the ends? And, well, that's the way Mom always did it, and that's the way we've always done it. And she proceeds to tell the story of why she did it. It was because the oven was so small that she had to fit the turkey in the oven. It's the only reason she cut it on both ends. And it wasn't because of, a particular passing down, but more so the accommodation of what was available, right? That's the funniest stories. How much do we question what we do? We always should question, is it really that we're doing it for the right reasons? Or are we just doing it because we're going through the motions of what we were taught growing up or what we witnessed other people doing? kind of like the stories we tell ourselves. The stories we tell ourselves are really an extension of the stories that we've witnessed in others in our environment. Family, friends, school. And so, what I like to do, if there's any type of, and this is pretty fresh, I just bought this yesterday. Clean off anything, and I like this part because this has just as much nutrients. And if there's any dirt, I'll wipe it off. Yep, that looks good, no dirt. Yes, I inspect my food too, that's the other thing. I won't serve anybody anything I won't eat. I assure you that if you were to come to my house and I prepare for you, I will give you the highest quality of food. That's good, that's good. Oh, and the other thing I love about the holidays is those old movies. Do you have a favorite old movie out there during this time? What is it? Share, right? Like Miracle on whatever street, because I don't remember the name off the top of my head right now. So there's the Miracle movie. There's the Wizard of Oz, right? That's probably one of my all-time favorites. And especially because, I mean, this day and age, now if depending on how much you look into things, you go, whoa, what was that story really about? All those leprechaun, or the little people. We represent the... Oh, wait, that might be a different movie. My bad. No, that was right. But The Wizard of Oz is one of my favorites. See this part here, the core? That's the best part. It is so sweet. And if you haven't tried it, you should cut it open and try it. It's sweet. And I like to eat as I go too, because I get a flavor for what is going to be. I'm tidying it up. I hope y'all are enjoying this, and I hope this benefits you, and maybe I've shared in some tips and ideas that help someone out there. I truly appreciate having this forum to be able to do this, because otherwise, how else would people be able to connect, right? It's amazing what you can do with cauliflower. I make up rice using it. I've made sushi using it, like a kind of a faux sushi, because there's no sushi in it, and it's so much lighter than rice. Like, rice is another thing that for me binds me a little bit. Being allergic to gluten, I tend to try to keep things as light on my digestive tract as possible, because it makes a huge difference in my days. I'm able to think clearer now. I don't have the constipation that I was suffering most of my life. And let me tell you, that was not fun. Being doubled over in pain, not being able to stand and walk or breathe. And that still comes up for me. For me, it's an emotional thing. A lot of times I'm not even realizing. It's everything from being way too excited to being anxious and nervous about something. So I have to check myself regularly. And a big deal for me is to breathe. To breathe fully into my body and recognize where my thoughts and if something is bubbling up to surface, because, whoa, my mind can really play a trick on my body. And I have found that my mind and body are so connected that everything I think reacts in the body. So next we're going to put the parsnip in there, because the parsnip is going to give it a little bit of a sweeter flavor. So we have... This is just cauliflower, okay? I'm going to add some water to it as well. Parsnip time. parsnips are also very good for you. Let's see what we got here. Right? Parsnip. And so I'm going to clean this up. And then I'm going to need a lemon. These are actually pretty clean. They're gonna get chopped up in this blender. This blender is pretty powerful. Sometimes I'll use cloves of garlic. I did not buy any garlic, so like I said earlier, I was using asafoetida, and it's a great alternative to garlic and onion. I find that over the years, I love onion, but my body, it just seems like my mouth starts to do something funny too, and I wake up in the next morning, and the sulfur from the onion seems to affect my eyes and my vision. So also kind of messes with my dreams a little. I don't remember my dreams as clearly when I have too many alums. You could use scallions in here too, or shallots. So many different options, right? Man, we are blessed. There's so much food out there we can play with. It's just a matter of navigating as we go, right? So I'm cutting around this top. Oops, things are flying in my kitchen. I'd love to know how many of you out there have prepared a huge picture perfect meal, like, you know, when you see a spread, and how do you do it? That's my curiosity, because I've cooked for people but never like super big meals. I think I've been kind of keep it to small groups in my house. Ooh, yummy. Parsnips can be so deceiving. They're so good for you too. Let's see. Very fibrous, very good. Looks kind of like a carrot, not quite. I love to use this chickpea miso for a lot of things, and this is going to go in there too. I'm going to put, I'd like to put about a teaspoon or more in here. So, it's a teaspoon and a half, 2 teaspoons. Yeah, 2 teaspoons of nutritional yeast. I mean the chickpea miso. It's got a salty flavor to it. A little salty, a little sweet, a little bit of both. Nutritional, or this is the asafoetida. I'll have to see if I got the nutritional yeast hidden in my, oh, that's a little bit more. That was about maybe a 1/16 to an 1/8 of a teaspoon of asafoetida. Oh, yeah, I do. Goody, 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 yay. All right. And then, actually, now that I think about it, now we would change the color. So, nutritional yeast. I think I'm going to put a teaspoon of this in there. Yep, teaspoon. And again, you can add more spices. I have fresh dill in the fridge, so I may put some of the dill in there. So we have, and this is a heaping tablespoon, by the way. I may put more of the parsnips, but I want to see how the flavor comes out first. And then the one thing I did not write down on my ingredient list, and I know I need, is a lemon, because a lemon, and it's not a full lemon, maybe half a lemon juice. So I'm trying to get the smallest one I got in here. That one, no. And I also made my secret ingredient. Is right here. It's called an avocado. And I have, yep, plenty of those. Can even play with the bell peppers too. But we're just going to keep it simple, right? Limone in Italian. So I was saying I lived in Naples, Italy off and on for over 15, 17 years, something like that. I lost track. Time flies when you're having fun. And so I have a compost pile over here off to the side. And I like to put everything in my backyard because I do like to recycle, right? So I compost. I have my own lemon tree back in the backyard. I have a fig tree. I have a papaya that is going nutso and has fruit producing in it. And it's only been in there for like a few months, which is wild. So I'm going to start out light. I'm not going to use this whole lemon right now because I might not need it all. And I think that if I put too much lemon, it'll be overpowering for this. I also got to be careful and not end up with seeds in here. That'll change up the flavor entirely. Okay, so I'd say for the amount of lemon juice that I just put in there, I would say that's maybe 1.5 tablespoons, if not closer to 2, right? And then I'm not going to put any spices in it just yet because I just want to try it regular. And I'm going to put some water in here too because the water is going to help move it at the bottom of the blender. So I'm going to say 1/2 cup of water. And then we'll see how this starts out. It might be a little bit rough to start. So it looks like 1/2 cup. It's probably less. It's like 1/4 cup of water, actually. Restless doggy over there hears the food being prepared. Sometimes he'll sneak in here and want to steal the show, I think, of the kitchen. Take over from the kitchen. Want my attention, which is super cute. Did add at least another 1/4 cup of water to that, and that's okay, right? So sometimes it's easier in the food processor for this. Just depends on what you're using. This is gonna be really tasty. So if you have like a Vitamix or a Blendtec, you use the tamper usually will help this. Or in this case, I've been pushing it down with my spoon. It's going to make it mashy like a mash. Shake it up because it gets air pockets sometimes too. Oh, this is gonna be good. Yeah, with the parsnips, so good. More lemon. And because parsnips have a particular flavor to them, you might not even want to keep the parsnips as much as just a little bit. Like right now it was the original recipe I had 1/2 to 1/2. So half the amount, the equal portions ratio of equal cauliflower to equal parsnip. In this case, the flavor is really yummy. The texture looks just like mashed potatoes. The parsnips give it a little sweet flavor to it. I'm going to add more cauliflower, and since there's more room in this blender, I need to make more because this isn't just for me. That could be 2 portions. It's just that I like to make a little bit more, and since I have it all available, I'm just going to cut up more. I'm probably going to add more nutritional yeast for the flavor of that cheesiness, because then it's like cheesy, like buttery, a little bit more buttery flavored. And again, I don't do very much oil, but you could even put olive oil in this. Years ago, I used to use a little bit more of the refined and processed oils, but I found that it's a little heavy on my digestion. So I try things different every once in a while. And once in a while I'll use oil, but there's a little secret to this. You can use half an avocado instead, and that in itself will give it a buttery flavor and feel and make it a little creamier. So I'm excited. I hope that y'all try this and let me know later if this worked for you, if you really enjoyed this recipe. Because I'll come on again and I'll share more recipes, because that's what I like to do. So I love to share what I'm doing in my kitchen. So that's that. And I'm going to put more because there's plenty of room in my blender. I do try sometimes overfill my blender. In fact, this will probably end up being the whole head of cauliflower, which is awesome. And if you don't get the full recipe while you're watching this, let me know. I'll send it to you, or I'll post it below. I don't mind. Again, sharing is caring. I enjoy it. I didn't know which recipes I was going to do, or I should have put the title other than just Happy Thanksgiving. Some more lemon, half an avocado, and I don't expect a whole lot of people have tuned in because, I mean, for me, Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday, but I usually spend it with my dad. But this year, I'm going to use half of this. This is a Haas avocado. Every year, I'm going to do that last, actually. Every year, my dad and I usually do something. And this year, it's been a little quiet. It's been kind of a funky year. You know, here in Florida, we had Hurricane Irma. He went up to visit with my sister, and he said that he wants to spend a little bit more time with the grandchildren. So that was a nice thing. And otherwise, it's just me and my dad down here. So I like to use the pulp because it's going to get blended in there anyway, and you don't lose any of the lemon, right? And I just find that lemons are like something you need to enjoy. Lemons are good for you. Oops. I got a seed in there I'm trying to get out. Uh-oh. I hate when this happens. I gotta dig for the seed. I'll tell you what, if you've ever had a seed in your food, like after it's been blended, it kind of gives a bitter flavor. So patience is a virtue, and sometimes needs to be cultivated. If we don't have patience with ourselves, we can't have patience with anybody else. Okay, back to the lemon. Let's hopefully get all those seeds out, not in the mash. I think I got all the seeds out. I see a seed got through. Very, very good. Can never get enough vitamin C in our diets is one thing I've learned. Vitamin C is key to healing the body. It's good for keeping us youthful. It's antioxidants, right? So ultimately this is one half of the lemon. And you can adjust. I mean, this is the beauty, is you make the recipe your own in the end, right? Peekaboo, I'm back. So I said the lemon, I'm going to put a little bit more asafoetida. A little bit more nutritional yeast. Another tablespoon. I said okay, so this will be 2 heaping tablespoons of nutritional yeast to give it that cheesy flavor. It really is like having cheese, especially if you're lactose intolerant or have issues with cheese. This is the best alternative. All right, we're up to, I think, 3 tablespoons of coconut aminos. I may put the dill in, but I may just break it up and do some with dill and some without, just to have 2 different flavors to play with. All right, and then I still have this cauliflower I still have more cauliflower in the sink here that I'm cutting up. So more cauliflower. I'm going to add more water, obviously, because otherwise it won't blend as well. It'll go down. I may use the rest of the cauliflower in there, and I'll find out if I like the parsnips flavor. And then add more salt. So I had not put salt or pepper in this yet. I don't think. Might have to check. So 2 dashes. And then I'm going to use about 1/4 teaspoon of ground peppercorns, basically. And add some water and blend away. And I'm going to say another 1/2 cup. In the total, I know we've got at least a cup in there now. What is that? Tastes so good. So again, those air pockets happen. Sometimes you need a bigger blender pitcher. And like I said, if you have a Vitamix, you can tamper it and push it down. Sometimes it takes a few rounds. There we go. There's still a little bit more texture to it. It's super yummy. You can add more water to it. Make it thicker, thinner, however you like. To me, it's just right. Flavor-wise, I would have, you know, when I'm going to do half with the, I'm going to pour half of this out in a bowl because it'll be for dinner. You know what? While I've got the mushroom sauce, right? That is so good. That is super yummy. Just the way it is with some of this mushroom sauce. So delicious. So delicious. That's all I can say. As far as the flavor, it's just right. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, cauliflower mash, right? And mushroom sauce. Put it together. It's very filling. I'm going to take half of this later and then I'm going to play with it. I'm going to, actually what I'll do, if you are interested, I will just continue. I'll pour half of this out into a container to hold on to it. And then I'm going to put half the avocado in. Probably use the rest of the cauliflower. And then I'm going to add some spice to it. Maybe add the dill and see how that tastes. So, I got a container here, so that works out perfectly, right? And so, and push it down on the sides. Is that enough? 16 ounces? I'll put more of this in here, just as it is. It's so much fun just to try. Like, you can break it up and you can play with your recipes and add different herbs and spices. And so the first one is just a base. Sorry, I still lick everything. It's really good. Last night, and I do this every once, I love sweet potatoes. I'm going to share something with you. Last night I made sweet potato mash with avocado because I don't do butter. I use avocados as an alternative, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. It might look, who knows, maybe you like the look of it, maybe you don't. But what I like to do, and then I'll do up the last of the cauliflower, is I take avocados and sweet potatoes, and there's dill in there and some curry powder and some capers, and I just moved it around, and it's like butter, baby. To me, it's like butter. So yummy. And there's something about mixing the orange, the green, the antioxidants, the beta carotenes actually absorb really nice into your body. You have your healthy fats. And so, this next batch, because I'm going to cover this other one up. So look at this. Cauliflower mash. Looks like mashed potatoes, doesn't it? Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Anybody can do this. And it's much more filling than you think until you actually consume it. So I'm getting all these preps up so that when I have friends come over a little bit later, yeah, it's still early and it feels like it's already dark outside. It feels so late. So then when people come over, everything's already ready, right? So now I'm going to take the rest of this cauliflower, put this in here, use an avocado, and play with some herbs and spices. And you could even make it like a puree, like a soup puree, which is really nice. A little bit more lemon, the juice. That's about 2 tablespoons worth. And now we've got the avocado. This will make it really buttery. And it actually brings, to me, it tends to bring out the flavors. And see how smooth and nice that comes out when you use a spoon? And this will bring out like the cheesier flavors, like the buttery, believe it or not, make it a little butterier, a little smoother, definitely creamier texture. I love me some avocado. That's all I'm gonna say. Avocado a day keeps the doctor away, in my opinion. So now we're gonna just blend that up. A little bit more salt, because I feel like it might need a little bit more salt. So another big pinch. And again, I don't use salt very often, but sometimes it's nice to bring out the flavors. Okay, so let's... Now it will change the color, obviously. If you've got a green avocado in there, it's going to change that color completely. Texture-wise, totally different. And because I didn't put any more parsnip, it changes the flavor because it's mostly cauliflower. And it really does taste like it's buttered because of the avocado. Now, a little bit of herbs. Again, if you're going to put the mushroom sauce on that, it's just right. Just right. But I think I'm going to put some dill in it. Dill. Make it delicious. So I have fresh dill in here that I picked up at the grocery store. Y'all like some dill? This stuff smells so good. I love my fresh herbs. How about y'all? So, one sprig. See what else we got in here. We got two good sized little sprigs. I think that should be good. Again, it's easier when you add it a little at a time, because if you put too much in at first, then you might be dissatisfied and it won't be happy feeling in your mouth, right? And we're all about the mouth pleasure. It's all about enjoying all those rich flavors, right? So that's a totally different setup. That's delicious. Literally delicious. Okay, I might be the only one who got that. Feeling a little silly with my dilly. Get my dilly on and some silly. Delicious. And so it's nice because if you don't pulse it too much, you'll even have all those little pretty dill accents. That's really flavorful. Very tasty. And all I did was add the rest of the cauliflower, added some dill, processed it through, and said some more salt. Yeah, it's about, this one came out to about 22 ounces. So I hope I inspired someone out there. If this interested you and you really gained something from it and you want the recipe, let me know right in the comments and I'll come back and I'll share the recipe. I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving. I'm grateful to spend this little time with you. Many blessings to you. I so appreciate you. Thank you. Be blessed.